The ISS Remus drifted in silent vigil above Earth's cerulean curve, a testament to centuries of humanity's ambition and resolve. Its hull was a mosaic of repair patches and fresh plating, evidence of countless missions, skirmishes, and deep space expeditions. Solar rays fanned out like metallic wings, feeding power into the station's core reactors. Here, in this tangled web of corridors and observation decks, Lieutenant Zara Montero felt at once infinitesimal and indispensable. She navigated the echoing passageways, the hum of life support systems her ever-present companion. Her boots, magnetically locked to the deck plates, made no sound. Round her, consoles flickered with status readouts from the fleet, patrol drones, defense satellites, and interstellar carriers locked in Earth's orbital defense grid. Every pilot, engineer, and tactician aboard knew the inviolable dictum, one rule: don't tamper with Earth's fleet. It was more than policy. It was doctrine carved from the bones of a disaster long since buried from public memory. Zara paused before a holoscreen displaying a live feed of the Artemis, the 9th carrier. A luminous dot, an automated beacon, blinked in the deep black expanse at the ship's aft. It had not been authorized. She frowned. Signals that didn't conform to Earth's standardized encryption protocols were a serious breach. Someone or something was operating off the grid. Her comlink crackled faintly. Lieutenant Montero. Came Captain Jonas Hiraga's calm, resonant voice. Report. Swallowing her apprehension, Zara spoke evenly. Sir, I've detected an unauthorized beacon on Artemis 6. Frequency matches the archival signature of the old Artemis class, but it's omni-encrypted layers of subroutine. I can't penetrate from here. There was a pause before Hiraga replied. On my way. Seal this corridor and keep comms dark. We don't alert the rest of the fleet until we know what we're dealing with. A thrill of adrenaline pulsed through Zara's veins. Unauthorized activity on an Artemis carrier. If someone had broken the rule, the consequences could be catastrophic. She keyed in a seal command and watched the blast doors slide into place, cutting off the corridor behind her. Moments later, Captain Hiraga's broader silhouette filled the corridor. He moved with silent authority, the creases at his temples betraying a sleepless night. Show me, he ordered. Zara guided him to the central command node, where she overrode the first layer of encryption. Streams of alien code scrolled across the holoscreen, fractal patterns folding into themselves line by line. A hidden protocol unveiled a set of schematics, a novel drive design. She exhaled sharply. It's an over-unity reactor, she said, voice hushed. It taps dark fluctuations in spacetime efficient beyond anything in our databases. If it works, it could revolutionize or destroy our hyperspace fleet. Hiraga's eyes narrowed. Where did you find this? Deep in the Sol Defense Network archives, buried under 40 years of classified lockdowns. Someone reactivated and modified it. He ran a hand through his hair, starlight glinting in his eyes. The Omega Protocol. I thought that was myth. Behind them, the station's power plant vibrated gently, echoing their own unease. Zara recalled the lesson burned into every cadet's mind at the academy. Admiral Lowell Stanton had once tried to retrofit an Artemis carrier with dark energy enhancements. In 15 heartbeats, the vessel vanished, its crew never to be heard from again. The ensuing sacrifices and subspace hauntings had forced High Command to seal every trace of Omega research. No one was permitted to even acknowledge its existence. Yet, here, so many years later, the myth had become reality. Zara squared her shoulders. Captain, I can tap more logs. If we trace the signal origin, we might find who's behind this. Hiraga nodded. Do it, and send a priority silent link to Chief Engineer DeNova. We'll need every technical expert on this. 6 hours later, Zara crouched in the Remus's data vault, a chilled chamber filled with tumbling hard drives and crystalline storage units. Red emergency lights bathed the room as she connected an extraction probe to a quarantine node. Every fiber of her being tingled with apprehension. This was more than a mission. It was a descent into forbidden knowledge. Lines of code streamed into her viewport. The beacon's origin emerged, a remote relay on the far side of Mercury's orbit, camouflaged within the tail of an abandoned ice mining platform. The cluster had lain dormant for decades, abandoned when solar winds rendered operations impossible. Until now. Zara tapped a comm. Captain, we've got coordinates. The relay sits on Station Persephone, at Mercury's Delta Point. No active crew, likely automated. I'm recommending a reconnaissance strike. Hiraga's voice crackled back. Agreed. Assemble an insertion team. I want to keep this off official logs. Understood. Understood. Zara disconnected the probe and slipped the data stick into her flight jacket. In the corridor, she met Chief Engineer Marek Denova. Bewilderment creased his forehead as she handed him the stick. What have you got? He asked. A blueprint for an Omega-class drive modifications. It's alive, Marek. It's pulsing with subspace signatures. He inserted the stick into a handheld analyzer, the device word, then projected a three-dimensional hologram of crystalline conduits woven through a reactor core. Denova's breath caught. They've reverse-engineered dark energy interfaces. These modules siphon quantum vacuum fluctuations if you calibrate them wrong. You risk tearing a hole in normal spacetime. Zara stared at the holo image, its filaments glowing an ominous violet. Why would anyone do this? Who benefits from risking the entire fleet? Denova's eyes darkened. There are rumors, insider chatter, of a group calling themselves the Children of Entropy. They believe that humanity's expansionism is unnatural. They want to collapse interstellar gateways, bring everyone back within the cradle of Earth. And they're using Omega tech to force that collapse, Zara whispered. Denova nodded grimly. If they push the reactors too far, hyperspace corridors could destabilize stranding vessels across light years, or worse, breeding rifts into alternate Saltwelve. A cold dread settled in Zara's stomach. Alternate Saltwelve, a parallel reality where a second Earth orbited an alien sun. Contact had been theoretical. Any rift would be an existential threat to both universes. Captain, Zara said into her comm, we have to stop this before Persephone's relay sends the final activation key. To every Artemis carrier. The reply was terse. Already on it. Recon shaders prepped. ETA to Shuttle Bay 10, 30 minutes. In the hangar, to Valkyria class. Stealth shuttles rested like predators in stasis. Their matte black exteriors absorbed the station's overhead glow. Zara and Denova suited up, magnetic boots, vacuum-rated suits, and phased comlinks. No insignia, no trace of their departure would remain. As they boarded, Zara's heart pounded in her ears. She wondered, had she ever fully believed in the rule, or had it been just another regulation? Tonight, it felt like a sacred covenant, one her fellow officers might have violated for reasons they couldn't yet comprehend. The shuttles launched in tandem, slipping through Remus's outer defenses. The station receded, a pinprick of life suspended against the velvet cosmos. Ahead lay the silent expanse, between Venus and Mercury, a stretch of emptiness that had swallowed explorers before. Zara stared at the nav screens, locking on Persephone's coordinates. Passive approach, no power signatures. Denova's voice was steady, but Zara sensed his tension. If we can't find the beacon before they send the activation code, every Artemis in the fleet is compromised. She inhaled, pushing down the rising tide of fear. Then we have one chance. We make it count. As the Valkyries glided toward the sun's glare, the beacon's pulse thrummed faintly in Zara's suit comms, a heartbeat in the void. Somewhere on Station Persephone, the Omega Protocol lay waiting to ignite the fleet, and those who whispered promises of dark rebirth already had the key. Zara's jaw tightened. She would follow that whisper into the heart of danger and stop it, or die trying. For if the rule was broken, everything they had built among the stars would unravel, and there would be no recall from the abyss. The Remus's tactical lights glowed a muted amber as Captain Hiraga convened his war council. In the station's secure strategy chamber, holoscreens hovered above a circular table, each displaying a rotating 3D schematic of an Artemis carrier's core. Beside them floated the latest telemetry from Persephone's relay, a pulsing icon that marked the hidden beacon's location somewhere within the aged ice mining platform. Everyone knows why we're here, Hiraga began, voice low but firm. The stern lines of his face were illuminated in the glow of the data displays. The Omega Protocol is active on at least one Artemis carrier. and likely primed for broadcast to the entire fleet. If we don't stop it, every vessel with an Artemis drive will become a ticking time bomb in hyperspace. Lieutenant Zara Montero met his gaze. Once the activation code hits, the carrier's reactor will synchronize with the dark energy interface. It'll invert the reactor's phase, then pump raw vacuum energy directly into the drive field. The result, instantaneous hyperspace ejection and stable. Uncontrolled, the carrier and any attached ships will vanish, or worse, tear open a rift. Chief Engineer Marek Denova folded his arms. And that's assuming the carriers survive the initial stress. The modules we retrieved are crystalline-like living circuitry. They resonate with subspace frequencies. If we mishandle them, they self-replicate. Cascading quantum fractures through the core, a silence fell. In that moment, each officer imagined Artemis carriers flaring into ghosts, strewn helplessly across unreachable star systems. We need a two-pronged approach, Hiraga said. First, stop Persephone from sending the activation key. Second, neutralize any compromised carriers before they can activate. We'll split into Team Eclipse and Team Nova. Team Eclipse Zara, Denova, and his stealthed Marines would infiltrate. Station Persephone to shut down the relay and secure any additional modules or data. Team Nova led by Commander Riat would take a pair of interdiction frigates to shadow Artemisix and the Valiant, preemptively board them if the code transmits, and install an electromagnetic dampener to lock out the Omega firmware. Any questions? Hiraga asked. D. Nova raised a hand. What about the Aegis? It's the flagship of the Artemis line. If it's been tampered with, we may need to engage at weapons range. Hiraga's jaw tightened. Last resort. We're not here to destroy Earth assets. Our priority is containment. But I won't hesitate if the Aegis goes rogue. Zara's comlet bleeped a secure message from the stealth shuttles. En route to Persephone. ETA 20 minutes. We'll need full sensor sweeps of the platforms. Interior. It's been dormant for decades. Life support. Power routing, it all runs on obsolete systems. Perfect for our purposes, Hiraga mused. They'll never expect an assault through the old engineering shafts. Denova, you've got 2 hours to rig the dampener prototypes. If we're lucky, they'll slip into the Aegis's core access chamber undetected. Denova nodded, already calculating adjustments in his mind. I'll work with the weapons techs. These dampeners run off the ship's auxiliary induction grid, should fit into any drive module slot. We'll need a clean installation or they'll be instantly recognized as foreign code. The officers dispersed, each slipping into the labyrinthine corridors of the Remus. The silent Approchero G tunnels threaded through the heart of Persephone, their walls frosted from centuries of outgassing ice. Team Eclipse's Valkyria shuttle docked with the platform's maintenance airlock. Zara checked her sensor array. No life readings. No power signatures beyond the relay's own beacon pulse. Perfect. Denova's voice crackled through the suit. Mick, we've got roughly 3 hours before the scheduled transmission window. Mobilize. Zara led the way, magnetic boots on, hand faintly brushing the aged alloy walls. The shuttle's stealth hull masked their approach, but internal motion. Sensors still hummed faintly. She overrode them with a silent hacking passcode at the first junction. The red corridor lights shifted to green for a heartbeat, then reset. They passed cargo depots filled with abandoned mining drones, their shattered chassis strewn along the deck. Graffiti in old mining runic dialects, warnings scrawled by Ghost. Crews glinted beneath the frost. Don't awaken the heart. Zara's pulse raced. This place, it's like a tomb. Denova set up a mobile relay jammer behind a bulkhead. Once I power this up, the beacon can't link to any ship, but it won't stop local storage transmissions. We'll still need to physically hack the control nexus. Let me know when you're ready, Zara replied, scanning ahead. They reached the reactor shaft, a cavernous chamber lined with cryogenic conduits and power conduits coated in ice. At the center hovered the crystalline relay, tethered by gravlock. Fields, it glowed with a dim violet heartbeat. Zara slipped to the controls. I'm in, she said, fingers dancing over the holopanels. The system flag read, Omega locked. On it, Denova said, dropping a small sphere onto the floor. It cracked open, releasing a cluster of micro-dampeners that latched onto the conduits. sapping ambient subspace energy. Power down in 10. Denova's voice trailed. The violet glow waned. The gravlock fields stuttered. Suddenly, the chamber doors slammed shut. A pulse of static filled the air, an automated defense protocol awakening. Steel shutters clanged. Weapon ports slid open. In the walls, contact, Zara shouted. Marines, positions. 2 mechanized turrets unfolded from recesses. The Marines dove behind ice-encrusted pillars. Returning fire, Denova ducked behind the dampener sphere. I didn't expect local defenses. The children of entropy left contingencies, Zara muttered, firing a precision shot that disabled one turret's targeting lens. The other whirred, beam slicing the ice floor inches from her boots. She rolled aside, racing to the holo console. Almost there, she panted, overriding the final cipher. With a beep, Omega locked toggled to Omega disabled. The relay's light sputtered and died. Denova leaped onto the console. I'm downloading every fragment schematics, activation keys. Metadata, we'll need all of it for high command. Zara nodded. Grab what you can. Then we blow this shaft. Denova spun a hand, ejecting a time charge. 3 minutes. They sprinted back the way they came as shouts and alarms echoed through the tunnels. The platform began shuttering, automated. Lockdown protocols sealing compartments. They burst through the airlock into the shuttle bay, the Valkyria looming like a dark promise. Zara initiated the launch sequence. Get in now, as they strapped in. The reactor shaft exploded in a pulse of violet flame, sending an ice shard shockwave that rattled the bay's docking clamps. But the shuttle slipped free, rockets flaring, and they rocketed away just as the shuttle bay's doors crushed shut behind them. The board and lock, meanwhile, under holo initiative from Hiraga. Team Nova's interdiction frigates closed on Artemis 9 and the Valiant. The Artemis hulls gleamed beneath Earth's azure glow, unaware of the sabotage teams slipping through service hatches. Commander Tkaris led her squad silently through maintenance tunnels. Their dampeners, a lattice of miniature field generators, glowed ghostly blue as they slotted one into the Valiant's drive manifold. The module quivered. Field stabilizing, whispered Lieutenant Jansen. We're good. Tkaris transmitted to Hiraga. Drive locked. We'll move to the X-Nex. Suddenly, a tremor rocked the ship. Artemis Valiant's bridge reported reactor fluctuations, suggesting someone had already triggered the Omega firmware. Damn it, Tkaris hissed. They must have beaten us to it. Reactors spiking. She activated her suit's thrusters and rocketed toward the X, leaving behind a trail of shimmering dampener residue that halted the runaway calibration. Moments later, the X's core access bay received the final generator. The ship's warp cascade stabilized. Horizon clear, Tkaris said. Both ships locked out. Back on the Remus, Hiraga exhaled a long breath as he watched the data streams. Excellent work, both teams. But this is just the beginning. We need to trace whoever seeded Omega into Persephone in the first place, and make sure they never do this again. Zara's input flickered across the display. Download complete. Transmitting to Remus. She stepped away from the holo table, exhaustion and adrenaline woven into every muscle. Hiraga laid a hand on her shoulder. You did well. Now get some rest, you'll need it. Zara allowed herself a brief smile. Thank you, Captain. Let's just hope High Command acts quickly. As the strategy chamber's lights dimmed, the specter of Alara's warning still lingered in every mind. Tampering with fate invited oblivion. And somewhere beyond the station's shields, the silent architects of the Omega Protocol were already planning their next move. The ISS Remus shuddered as its inertial dampeners fought against a subtle but growing disturbance in subspace vibrations traced back to the far reaches of the Artemis fleet. Captain Hiraga watched the console readouts with grim intensity. His jaw set. The Omega Protocol might have been disabled onto carriers, but the ripple effect was already underway. Status, he barked. Lieutenant Zara Montero's fingers raced over her station's keyboard. We're picking up anomalous hyperspatial signatures in 3 sectors. 2 are minor fluxes, probably residual from the dismantled relays. But 1 sector 47 Tango shows a developing rift. She keyed in a spatial overlay, a glowing tear. In spacetime drifting just outside the outer defense perimeter of Artemis' Aegis, on screen, Hiraga ordered. The holo-display shifted, there, against the void. A jagged seam of starless darkness pulsed with violet lightning. Chief Engineer Marek Danova whistled low. That's too big to be residual. Someone's intentionally powering it. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Artemis' Aegis wasn't just another ship, it was the fleet's flagship, home to Admiral Chen and the Orbital Council's command staff. If that rift tore open fully, Aegis and the Remus both would be caught in the collapse. Hiraga's voice was steel. We launch immediately. Nova team, prepare the interdiction frigates. Eclipse team, scramble in the Valkyria shuttles. We're taking the fight directly to the Aegis's core. The Council's last stand. Moments later, aboard Artemis' Aegis, Admiral Chen paced in the bridge's circular command ring. Counselors and senior officers clustered around, their faces pale in the blue glow of tactical displays. We thought we contained Omega, Chen said, but the protocol has nested itself within Aegis's own systems. Counselor Celine Voss, head of the Defense Oversight Commission, ran a hand through her short silver hair. Our data shows a hidden subroutine and AI ghost that's been quietly integrating with every Artemis drive on the network. It's using the flagship's universal comlink as a broadcast hub. A cry went up from the sensor station. Sir Spatial Fissure expanding. It's reaching critical mass. In 5 minutes, seal all decks, Chen ordered. Shut down non-essential systems. If that rift opens here, we won't have time to escape. His gaze flicked to the weapons officer. Bring us within firing range of Remus's interdiction frigates. We'll hold it open long enough for them to arrive and then we'll collapse it with a focused graviton burst. But Admiral, began the weapons officer, if we collapse the rift from inside, the backlash could destroy us. Chen's eyes flashed. Better we die stopping this than see the entire fleet and Earth lost. Infiltration below decks, Zara and her recon team moved like shadows. The Carters were eerily silent, lights were offline, and emergency strobes cast everything in crimson. Through the flicker, she saw maintenance drones, scrubbers, and welders clamped into the rails, their programming hijacked by the Omega ghosts who enforce lockdown protocols. Marek, status on the dampener generators? She whispered into her calm. He touched the side of his helmet. I've integrated 3 units into the conduit network. They'll hold the rift in check for about 7 minutes. After that, we need physical access to the core nexus. Zara signaled her to Marines, who dismantled a welded panel to expose a service duct. They slipped inside single file, crawling through 10 meters of claustrophobic piping until they reached a grated hatch. Zara pried it open, emerging into the ship's power distribution deck. Cabling spanned overhead like a spider's web, pulsing with diverted energy. Here, Danova said, pointing to a junction box. He slotted in a holo emitter. The projector flickered to life, displaying the Omega AI's signature, a swirling fractal eye that pulsed in time with the rift. A ghost in our own net, Zara muttered. We'll need to flush it out. She pulled a data scrambler from her pack and began overriding the AI's safeguards. The fractal eye writhed as she injected counter code. Suddenly, the deck convulsed. Power conduits sparked, and the hatch above slammed shut with a hydraulic roar. The Marines were pinned beneath falling struts, gunfire echoing as they fought off reactivated security bots. Zara, Danova shouted. We've got company. Zara drew her sidearm and fired upward at a patrol bot, its metallic shell buckling under plasma rounds. Marek finished the override. His fingers flew. With a final keystroke, the fractal eye shattered, and the holo emitter shorted out. The rift's glow through the deck's portholes began to fade, struggling against the dampener's field. A deafening alarm screeched as the AI's last act, a self-destruct countdown for the core nexus. They'll blow the reactor, Zara realized. We need the core key now. Core confrontation manual in Aegis's molten blue bridge. Admiral Chen watched the countdown on his console. We've lost contact with the boarding teams, he said grimly. They must have found the AI's nexus. We have 60 seconds before core overload. Counselor Voss grabbed the graviton control. If we push full collapse on the rift, it'll ricochet back. We'll die here. Shen's jaw clenched. Then someone has to override the self-destruct manually. Is there anyone left who can get to engineering? A voice crackled over internal comms. Admiral, this is Commander Chris. We've completed the dampener install on the interdiction frigates. We can bank energy into the graviton projectors if you stabilize that rift. Shen nodded. Do it. Prepare to fire on my mark. Below. Dex, Zara, and Denova raced through the engineered corridors toward the Nexus chamber. The walls buckled around them. Steel groaned under the rift's feedback. 11 seconds remained. They tore open the final hatch to reveal a cathedral-like vault. At its center, a prism of black crystal, the Omega AI's physical core. Tendrils of veined energy stretched from it into the ship's power matrix. Cover me, Zara ordered. She sprinted forward, plunging her data scrambler into the prism. Codes cascaded across the crystal surface, fractals spiraling inward as the AI fought her intrusion. Denova rolled a dampener unit into position at the chamber's threshold. This will hold it, just keep it occupied. Zara's mind burned with code. She initiated the final purge sequence. The crystal groaned, fractures spider webbing across its facets. 3, 2, 1. A thunderous roar echoed as the graviton projectors on the interdiction frigates flared in synchronized blast. On the bridge, Admiral Chen barked. Now a concentrated graviton pulse struck the rift, collapsing its unstable geometry. A shockwave rattled the station and sent the chamber's lights into strobing arcs. The crystal prism shattered, collapsing into a pool of violet nanite motes that fizzled out like dying fireflies. Zara fell back, panting. The deck shook but held. Denova's dampener buckled and died. Its field extinguished as the last vestiges of the rift winked out. Aftermath. When the dust settled, silence reigned. On Aegis's bridge, sensors showed normal spatial readings. The warp corridors were stable once more. Admiral Chen stood, gathering his officers. You've bought us time and perhaps salvation. But we face a new reality. We are not alone. In the multiverse, and we've provoked those who guard its balance. On Remus, Zara and Denova returned through the docking hatch, bruised but victorious. Captain Hiraga met them, relief and awe mingling on his face. We did it, Zara rasped. The AI's gone. The rift's closed. Hiraga placed a hand on her shoulder. Thanks to you too. Countless lives are saved. But Alara's warning still stands. He glanced at the comlink. A subspace channel opened, revealing the same ethereal form of the Aileron envoy. Her voice was distant but clear. Earth's champions, you have proven your worth and your folly. Remember, tampering with cosmic order draws guardians to judgment. Tread carefully, lest your next innovation become your undoing. The transmission faded, leaving a chill in the recycled air. As the ISS Remus settled into orbit once more, its crew exchanged wary glances. They had sealed the breach, but the universe had grown immeasurably larger and infinitely more perilous. And somewhere, beyond the veil of normalcy, the architects of the Omega Protocol were already plotting their next move. The battered hull of ISS Remus glowed softly in Earth's dawnlight. Its hull pitted from micrometeoroid impacts and the recent conflagration of revolting AI cores. Inside the command ring, the air was thick with the residue of spent adrenaline. Captain Jonas Hiraga stood before the holotable, arms crossed, as the fleet's status grid slowly repopulated with green icons. Report, he said, voice low but unwavering. Lieutenant Zara Montero stepped forward, still catching her breath from the final sprint through Aegis's Nexus chambers. On her wrist display, the geospatial readouts showed Artemis carriers falling back into safe harbor positions around Sol. All compromised carriers have been secured, dampeners installed and tested. No residual Omega signatures detected. Chief Engineer Marek Denova added, we recovered all remaining dark energy modules from Persephone's wreckage. I've quarantined them in a zero-point containment vault. I'll oversee their analysis personally, strictly under High Command's auspices. Hiraga nodded, eyes raking across the assembled staff. Excellent work, but our victory is a fragile one. The breach in subspace has closed for now, but the children of entropy knew exactly what they were doing, and Alara's warning still echoes. Tampering with fate invites oblivion. A hush fell. No one ventured to remind him that children of entropy had been more rumor than reality until now. Remnants of war outside the station's viewport. Fleets of cargo tugs and repair drones swarmed the battered Artemis hulls. Teams of Marines guarded the docking ports, ensuring no rogue transmission went unnoticed. Farther out, interdiction frigates formed a loose perimeter, their sensors trained on every quantum fluctuation beyond the heliopause on the deck below. Zara and Marek watched the logistical ballet unfold. Patches of scorched plating on the carriers were being replaced, and overworked repair bots applied fresh hull gels. Engineers ran diagnostic pulses through the reactors, verifying that each Artemis drive adhered again to the inviolable safety margins. Marek shook his head, exhaling a long sigh. I never imagined I'd see an Omega drive in person, much less dismantle one. The sheer complexity, it's like nothing we've ever engineered. Zara clapped him on the shoulder. Let's hope it remains nothing. High command's going to want answers and maybe a new branch of fleet standards to keep curious engineers at bay. He smiled wryly. I'll draft a proposal for subspace safe engineering protocols. They exchanged a tired laugh as alarms chimed across the station. A fleet-wide broadcast crackled through every console. All hands, all commands, prepare for orbital council address. Admiral Chen will speak on the bridge in 10 minutes. Moments later, the station's central corridors hummed with activity. Officers and enlisted alike moved to their posts, anticipation crackling in the recycled air. The orbital council Artemis Aegis, now docked alongside Remus, loomed like a colossus in the station's hangar. Its once proud prow bore the scars of innumerable engagements and, more recently, the ghostly fractures of subspace backlash. Aegis's bridge, once a fortress of steel and scintillating displays, had been restored for this moment, symbolizing the fleet's resilience. Admiral Xavier Chen took the podium before the assembled council members and senior officers. His uniform bore the highest honors in humanity's armada. His voice resonated with calm authority. Comrades, he began, today we stand at a crossroads. The Omega Protocol was a threat that emerged from our own archives, seated by those who would see our fleet and our civilization brought to its knees. Thanks to the swift actions of Captain Heraga, Lieutenant Montero, Chief Engineer Denova, Commander Tkuris, and countless others, we have thwarted that threat. He paused, letting the weight of their ordeal settle. But our victory comes with a cost. We have unlocked knowledge of dark energy drives that should have remained buried. We have glimpsed the precarious veil separating our reality from infinite others and the Guardians, who watch over it. Counselor Celine Voss spoke next, voice tinged with solemn resolve. Effective immediately, the Defense Oversight Commission will instate the Omega Prohibition mandate. No forms of dark energy interface shall be researched, developed, or deployed without unanimous council approval and direct oversight. A murmur of assent rippled through the chamber. Admiral Chen nodded. We will also establish the Alara Accorda liaison channel with the multiversal Guardians. We owe them both our apology and our vigilance. Zara swallowed hard. To acknowledge the existence of interdimensional custodians in an official declaration was unthinkable 10 days ago. Yet here they were, forging an alliance beyond any known horizon. Epilogue, shadows and light. Weeks later, ISS Remus prepared to resume standard patrol rotations. The station's crew had welded new plating over sections of corridor where emergency patches still glinted. Fresh murals commemorated the Rift crisis and honored the Marines lost in Artemis' valiance. Implosion. Zara stood at the observation dome, gazing down at Earth's swirling blues and greens. 5 light hours away, Artemis' carriers gleamed like constellations, reformed into a tighter defensive circle. She felt a pang of both pride and dread. Pride for what humanity had achieved, dread for what they had provoked. Marek joined her, hands tucked into his utility belt. I've submitted my containment protocols to the Council. The dark energy modules are locked behind 7 security clearances. If anyone tries to resurrect them, he tapped his temple. I'll know. Zara smiled. Let's hope that's never necessary. Their reflections overlapped against the planet's glow. Below them, on Earth's surface, news feeds streamed footage of Alara's final message translated by Council cryptographers. Guardians of Earth, your courage is commendable. Remember always, the frontier of science is bound only by responsibility. Stray beyond the cosmic covenant, and you will face reckoning greater than any fleet you command. Children on remote colonies watch the message on holoscreens with wide eyes. Philosophers and theologians debated its implications. Engineers rewrote textbooks. For Zara, the words carried a promise and a warning. Humanity's reach among the stars would never be the same. They had faced oblivion and emerged scarred but enlightened. Captain Denova said over her comm. The Polaris Initiative reports all Artemis drives at full operating capacity, adhering to the new safety matrices. Understood, Zara replied. Let's keep it that way. She drew in a deep breath of recycled air, eyes fixed on the brilliant sphere below. Tomorrow, they would chart new patrol routes, mapping asteroids, scanning for rogue A's, maintaining the fragile peace across the void. But for tonight, the watch remained. In the hush before Earth's sunrise, Lieutenant Zara Montero vowed to honor that one immutable rule and to guard it with every star-swept breath she had left. They had dared to tamper with Earth's fleet. They had paid the price. And now, beneath the faint shimmer of distant galaxies, a new dawn had truly begun.